What's up, everyone? These are the 5 players that you need to bench for week 2 if you want to come out with that W. And I decided that this week I can't be the only one to help you. So I had to bring in my buddy Dustin because Dustin knows what he's talking about. And we need that win. I mean, who has Aaron Rodgers? Who has the 10,000 injuries they're dealing with? Who thinks that Puka Nacua is going to be the person that saves everyone? Listen, it's week 2 and we're already stressing about fantasy. Are you in a better place than my teams are?
No, I went 2-4 this week in my 6
Oh, we're
teams.
both struggling. We're both having rough week ones, but it's okay because it's only week 1. Yeah, it's only week 1. It's not the biggest of deals. So before we get into it, I want to thank everybody for coming in. The touchdowns, tap outs, and triple plays. This week we're talking about touchdowns. We're talking about fantasy football. We're going to try to help you win your league. And like I said, I had to bring my buddy Dustin in. Dustin, tell these people where can they find you. What do you do? Give them the lowdown, man. Floor is yours.
Yes, so you can find me on Twitter. I refuse to call it X. At the DUnit13. That's the best place to find me. I am the content director for DynastyProsFootball.com. I also am the Sit Start director for QB List, so we got those coming out every Thursday. Then I write for Dynasty Nerds. I'm also the growth and planning strategist for Front Office Pros. So if you check out Steve and Joe's videos, they come out daily. For the most part right now this time of the season. I kind of help them on the back end of that. And then I just do guest spots on, wherever people like you are lucky enough and happy enough to bring me on, and I appreciate it. I'll be on Front Yard Fantasy next week. So just kind of pop around. Don't have my own podcast, trying to keep that work-life balance thing going.
Smart.
But the best place to find me is Twitter. I link all my articles. I'm always sharing out people's stuff. Anything that I find useful, I want to give out to people because I am all about people having fun and winning in fantasy. So if you want to win and that's what's fun, I'll help you out. If you want to trade and that's fun, I'll help you out. If you want to trash talk and have loser punishments, I'll help you out. So I'm there to just help people out, have fun. Whatever fun is for you in fantasy, that's what I want to help you do.
Listen, that's perfect. That's what the people need right now. And before we get into it, it's safe to say that you are a Bills fan from the background.
This is my starter jacket from the 90s when I was a teenager.
Oh, okay. I like it, man. You kept it. Listen, I wish I kept my Eagles one. I'm very upset at myself. But before we get into all the players, let's just talk for one quick second. How are you feeling about your Bills after Monday?
Not great. Obviously, Josh Allen we go as Josh Allen goes.
Yeah.
He's a good quarterback. He's a real good quarterback, but he has to stop making these Carson Wentz-like boneheaded mistakes where he trusts his arm and puts too much faith in his arm and tries to force these play in. I'm watching the games. I have a 10-year-old son. He watches with me, and he knows it. I keep saying every time they're ready to snap the ball, I go, smart plays, not big plays. That's what we need. We just need to, when we dink and dunk, we move the ball efficiently and we score. When he starts taking these shots it's 2nd and 10 and he's taking a 30-yard shot, that's just a bad play. We don't need that. We also don't need we don't need the draw play on 2nd and 15. That's probably not the best play call either. So it's partially play call, but I just find that Josh Allen just needs to be smarter, needs to relax, needs to just take what's given to him instead of trying to win the game on every play.
No, listen,
I am only encouraged because Bengals lost, Chiefs lost. So in terms of the AFC, we're still on pace with those teams. It's not like they have a game up on us now. The Dolphins do and the Jets do for the division. Not worried about that. I think we'll still win the division. I still think we'll be there come November, December. I'm just not real happy this week.
Yeah, he did not need to keep bombing that ball, especially once Rodgers left the game. He could have dinked and dunked and just won the game nice and easy. But I think you're going to be okay. And you know what? We'll make it real simple for the people. Josh Allen, start him. We're not benching him.
You have to start him. You can't not start him.
You can't get crazy. Now, we will talk about a couple of quarterbacks here because we are both benching 5 players or talking about benching 5 players. And I'm going to get into this right away with somebody who gave the people a goose egg, which was Drake London and the Atlanta Falcons offense. Yay. We're right back into the same thing we dealt with last year, except Drake London got us 0 points in week 1. And it just sucks because Ritter only throws for 100-something yards and he only has 63 air yards all game. He targets the running backs half the time. And I wish I was just making that up. It was legitimately 50-something% of the time to running backs. And it's upsetting because we watched this guy in 2022 get a giant target share. We watched him get yards on every reception over 10. It was like 12 yards a play every time in 2022. And I don't feel it this week. This has now become one of those, I need to see it before I trust it again. And he's facing the Packers, and that's Alexander. I want nothing to do with that shadow on this offense where they're just trusting Ritter to not suck. What's your thoughts on Drake London? If you have him, are you automatically starting him because you drafted him so high, or is it one of those wait and see?
It's a wait and see. So I've always said, and I will say this multiple times, once is a fluke, twice is a trend, 3 times is a pattern. We're at a pattern with Drake London where he is just frustrating. Same thing with Kyle Pitts of them being frustrated. Here's the deal. We came into the season saying the Falcons run the ball a ton. So good for Bijan, right? That's what we said. We also came in the season and said Desmond Ridder is just okay. But we also came in the season and said Drake London's a top 12 wide receiver and Kyle Pitts is a top 5 tight end. Those four things can't exist in the same system.
Yeah.
We have a trend now of Drake London not being good. In games with Kyle Pitts, he averages 5.3 targets. That's it.
Yeah.
Games without Kyle Pitts, now just games in general, he's at 6.5. He's not gained a ton of targets in general, so I can't start him. I didn't draft him because I was afraid of him. We have to come to the fact that Drake London might just be mid. He might just be a mid player.
Which is wild because he was drafted so high and this offense has so many stars on it and they just don't want to use them.
And here's the deal. Atlanta won the game. But that worked. I get it. We go, Arthur Smith's not using his young players. He doesn't care. He's winning games.
They don't care about fantasy. We love fantasy, but they don't care. They need to win. He doesn't keep his job as a head coach because Drake London had 43 points in week 1 in fantasy. Yep. He keeps it by winning. So you absolutely nailed that. I think you have to wait and see with Drake London right now, especially in this matchup. But the good news with Drake London, if you do have him, I believe it's the Jaguars, and then I believe it's the Lions after that for week 3 and 4. So little bit easier matchups. Maybe he comes back as a flex play or a wide receiver too on your team. Now, your first one hurts me as an Eagles fan.
I know it does.
And I put the green up here just because my Eagles play tomorrow. So go ahead, break my soul. I'm going to sit quietly while you do it, but break my soul.
You have to sit DeAndre Swift this week. We have to, again, go back to, it's a trend of DeAndre Swift just not being that great. Obviously, we had this hype coming in when he was drafted with the Lions. He was going to be this bell cow back. He was going to be Austin Eckler. He's just not. He's a third down back. And not even a good one, but the Eagles don't throw to the running back. That's just not the system they have. Kenny Gainwell's not going to play, right? Let's just be real. He's got a rib injury. They've hemmed and hawed, and we don't know. He's not playing.
Yeah, he's out.
Even
it's
with
official
that,
now.
I'm not sure DeAndre Swift's the guy. No. It might be they might activate Rashad Penny. It might be Boston Scott. I'm okay even if it is DeAndre Swift being wrong in this because the process says you can't start him. Yeah. Minnesota has a decent run defense. They should be able to put up points, so they should be able to match the Eagles. So it might be a shootout. So you might see this high passing. We need to keep pace with the Vikings and Justin Jefferson type game, which might take the running backs out of it. I just don't think you can start DeAndre Swift. We haven't seen it in forever. Yeah. And the fact that he played last week and played minimal snaps, saw minimal opportunities, I'm really scared to start him even with Gainwell out this week.
No, listen, I think that's a very good point. Like you said, we saw him last week. He didn't perform. I do think Rashad Penny is now active this week, and we'll get some of the touches, and Boston Scott will get a lot of the 4-minute drill and 2-minute drills because Nick Sirianni just wants somebody he trusts, and that's why Gainwell was getting all of the plays because he trusts him. So if you can't trust in him, if Nick can't trust in Swift, he's not going to play that much. And we got him for free. We got him for absolutely nothing in Philadelphia in this trade. So we have no reason to play him. It's not like we gave up a first, a second. We didn't pay him a ton of money. If he's great for us a game, great. If he's not, then he's just another running back because that's how we handle things here in Philadelphia. And it's a risky play.
And they traded, what, a 4th for him?
Yeah, it was like a 4th or a 5th, something real small.
So here's the deal. Are you starting?
Forget.
Are you starting Roschon Johnson?
I'd rather start Roschon Johnson over DeAndre Swift.
Roschon Johnson was a 4th round pick. Like, that's
Yeah.
where we're at. And we have
Yeah.
no clue what Roschon Johnson is. We know what DeAndre Swift is, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and
So,
and Roschon Johnson at least got the targets and caught them. And I get
Yeah.
it was raining in the Patriots game, but it was raining down the East Coast. Everybody else caught the damn ball. I don't want to hear
Yep.
that.
I
Like it
agree.
drives me nuts.
Yep.
That drives me nuts when people say that. But and it's a Thursday night game, and players are coming in off that short little window. They're not going to be as healthy. Thursday night games always seem to underperform, even though I hope this goes to a
I
shootout
hope
just
so
for my
too.
own personal, viewership of it. But as long as we win, again, Eagles fan, as long as I win, I don't really
You win,
care.
it doesn't matter. Yep.
Exactly. And I'm going to flip-flop my 2 quarterbacks that I have next just because we just talked the Eagles. So I want to go to the hated Cowboys instead. And
I'm with you.
I'm going to both sides of the ball in this, and we could talk about it. I'm not starting Dak Prescott. I'm benching him this week, and I'm benching any Jets outside of Garrett Wilson. And we'll get through the Jets part real quick. I don't want to touch that offense with a 10-foot pole, but Garrett Wilson was drafted so high. If you have him, you kind of have to start him. As for Dak Prescott, he's playing a ridiculously good New York Jets defense. This was going to be a battle if Rodgers was in it or not. And they showed that they're not really going to try to lean on him too heavily. They just scored 40 points. And I know that there was a special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown, but Dak Prescott wasn't the main component. It was Tony Pollard. And they talked about this in the offseason that they wanted to run the ball. They wanted to slow it down. They wanted to give that defense some breathing time so that they could be elite like they were.
Yeah.
And the game script is why I don't want Dak Prescott, because Zach Wilson can't keep up. I don't know if he's going to be able to keep up against that Dallas Cowboys vaunted defense. And if that's the case, the Cowboys could win this game 20-0, 21-3, like something like that. You're not getting a lot of high end potential ceiling game out of Dak Prescott right now. And I'd rather go out there. There's got to be somebody on your waiver wire that has a better shot at being in a shootout that could produce more points, maybe even playing in a negative game script. Let's just say CJ Stroud against the Colts, because that's a really bad defensive back room there. And I'd rather take that shot because I really think that this game is going to be a boring, slow, 2 amazing defenses facing each other.
Yeah, I'm wary of Dak. We saw what the Jets did to Josh Allen. Yes, it's partially Josh Allen, but partially that defense is really good, especially on the back end. Yeah. Sauce Gardner is amazing. The other corners are back. The safeties have played really well. They're coming off this emotional high of winning on Monday night.
Bring that right
Let's
down.
not forget, Dak had 15 interceptions last year in 12 games. Not like he played 17 in 12 games. I know he's talked about keeping those down and they're working on that, but this could be a game where he has 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what you do. If you have 2 interceptions, that limits your fantasy upside.
Oh, 100%.
So even if he throws 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions negates one of those touchdowns. That's still not great. Plus, it limits just the amount of opportunities. Every time you throw an interception, you cut your opportunities down. You cut down the drives. You only get really 8-9 drives per game, if that. They might only see 6 this game. And if he coughs it up on 2 of them, that just limits his upside. So I agree with you. You gotta bench Dak. I agree with you on the Jets. I'm not touching it. I've been out on Garrett Wilson before the Aaron Rodgers injury. I wasn't real thrilled with him. I was more on an Alan Lazard take. Zach Wilson's not good. We know he's not good. Again, once is a fluke. They won on a fluke. Twice is a trend. 3 times is a pattern. We have a pattern of Zach Wilson not being good.
Yeah, I fully agree. And like you said, you brought it up. We watched Josh Allen throw a bunch of turnovers, and the 2 players that get compared enough, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, because they turned the ball over. Yep. So if you didn't like what you just saw from Josh Allen, who has the better arm, why would I like it with Dak Prescott? Yep. So that's where I'm at. You're up next, and I kind of agree. I really agree with this one, but this is just because I hate this team. Again, we just seem to be swirling around my Eagles in a sense. So this might just be the haterade inside me.
As a Bills fan, we lost our Super Bowls to Giants, Washington, Dallas. So I hate all the AFC East teams.
See, we're friends.
Well, I'm originally from outside Philadelphia. So if I'm going to root for a team, I'm going to root for the Eagles on the NFC side. But you got to sit Terry McLaurin this week. Playing the Broncos, so he's getting Patrick Surtain Jr. Tough matchup. He trailed Dotson and Curtis Samuel in routes run. He played 63% of the snaps, but only ran 34 routes. That's less. That's like one less than what Curtis Samuel ran. Like on only 46 snaps. Like Curtis Samuel ran a ton of routes compared to like limited snaps. Sam Howell is good, but not great. He seems to be more of a efficiency West Coast dink and dunk type passer. Terry McLaurin is definitely more of a field stretcher. There's just too many mouths to be. Logan Thomas looked good. Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson are there. Like, there's just too many mouths to be for me to like Terry McLaurin. And I'm okay being wrong in this one. You probably drafted him as your wide receiver 3, maybe your wide receiver 2 if you went real running back heavy. I'm okay being wrong if Terry McLaurin goes off. I'm just benching him this week. I don't like the matchup this week for him.
I think that's a great idea because the Broncos and the Washington Commanders, they both went under in a lot of their games last year. I don't have this specific stat for it. I'm not going to pretend to have the stat for it. But the Broncos have an amazing defense. They don't have a strong enough offense, especially if Jerry Jeudy's out. So again, game script. And we have Ron Rivera, and I don't care if Eric Bieniemy's there. They're not going to come out and start throwing 50, 60 times. They're not putting 40 points up on the board. It's not the team they are, and they have to lean into Brian Robinson over Antonio Gibson because he keeps fumbling. So that's something we'll talk about later. It's just this team is not meant to be that explosive team. This team is more of the early 2000s, late 90s, beat you 20-17, and that's how they're going to want to do it. So Terry McLaurin, for me, had like 2-3 games I wanted to use him last year, and that's why I faded him all season for this season. I don't have any of him. Best ball, nothing. I just completely skipped them because I just like Jahan Dotson better. So there was just no point for me to do it where he was going. And I think that's a great point because, like you said, there's Patrick Surtain. It's a strong defense that the Broncos have a bad offense attached to that strong defense. And then the same thing on the other side for the Washington Commanders. If anything, bench Terry McLaurin and bet the unders.
And here's the deal, like, it's week 2. There's still a full slate of games. Now, if there was bye weeks, I can see him sticking in lineup, but we've got guys coming off where you've got Puka Nacua. You got all these, like, hot names who you're going to slide in your lineup. Like, I'm looking at Terry McLaurin a couple of times going, I'd rather start a Puka Nacua. I'd rather start a Josh Kelly in my flex. I'd rather start some of these hot names in my flex spots over Terry McLaurin because that's really where he is. He's not a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team.
No, he's not that. And it's a shame because he's talented. It's really not totally his fault. But he doesn't produce, like you just said, once, twice is a trend. You know, the same thing we said a few times. Yep. We're going to clip it out, make it a short. We're going to have a whole thing with that.
I will say this, though. If you are in Dynasty, buy the dip after this week on Terry McLaurin because he will trend, and he probably will get traded, if not this season, in the offseason. The new ownership is the same ownership that owns the Sixers and the Jets and the Devils. Both those teams went through their process where they traded off these older-ish talents to get picks. I could see them trading Terry McLaurin at the deadline or definitely offseason, recouping some picks, and starting their own process in Washington.
Yeah, I think that's a very smart call, and I do see him getting traded as well for all the reasons you just said it. Let's talk about somebody who might be swirled in a trade debate next offseason. And that's going to be Justin Fields. He had he came in, faced the Packers. Everybody was super hype. I wrote a fade article on him in the offseason saying that I don't see the same ceiling that I see with Jalen Hurts because we surrounded Jalen Hurts with elite wide receivers, a great front office, a good coach, a great offensive coordinator. I don't see that in Chicago. And my issue with Justin Fields is that, yes, he can bomb it. Yes, he can run the ball a lot and get you a lot of yards like a Konami Code style quarterback. But he just doesn't take what's given to him. There's been multiple plays flying around on Twitter because, like you said, I refuse to call it X. And there's like wide open curl routes. Here's a drag. That guy's wide open. We're going to do a hook. Nope, we're not going to throw it to him. And we're going to take a sack. And that's a problem to me because he's going up against the Buccaneers who blitzed 21 times against Kirk Cousins last week. And Justin Fields is notorious for taking sacks. I just don't trust it. I know you drafted him high. This is going to take a lot of gumption and a lot of guts to do it. But I think that I'm in another wait and see. Darnell Mooney left the field with an injury. We have Chase Claypool probably being a healthy and active. I think teams are going to be able to figure out the bet. Yeah, I know Chase Claypool is a whole nother scenario. We don't have enough show time to talk about Chase Claypool. It's such an annoying thing. But if you had Justin Fields, would you start him? Would you look at it? I know this one's a little risque by me, so I'm curious how you feel about it.
I mean, I would definitely look at it. I don't know if you're going to be able to find someone there. Like, who are you getting to replace him? Are you replacing them? Who's on waivers? In a one quarterback league, you're looking at Brock Purdy. Yeah. You're looking at Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo.
I get Derek Carr. I would actually go
take
Derek Carr over the Panthers with J.C. Horn out. I probably would go Derek Carr. But like you said, Bryce Young, no. Maybe C.J. Stroud, yeah. Brock Purdy, no. Well, maybe. I don't know. He's the toss-up. I think like that's where I call it.
Yeah, it's a real tough one. Maybe you get a Matthew Stafford off waivers. Depends on your league, but I think you definitely look. People are going to be enamored with this rushing upside, and everybody wants that. They want the next Lamar Jackson, Cam Newton, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen. Yes, Fields can run, but I agree with you. He doesn't. He's athletic.
Yes.
He's a great athlete. He's not necessarily a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He doesn't make good reads. He doesn't read defense as well. He doesn't pick up blitz as well. That's why Roschon Johnson is going to get a ton of playing time, because Roschon Johnson can pass block, and that's what they need. That offensive line has been reworked, but it's still not good. He's going to get pressured a ton, and I think you're going to look at Justin Fields, and I think the team is looking to go, man, we can't have these design runs. We can't get him banged up, because they know they have a legitimate shot at winning the division now that Rodgers is gone. I think that window is closing very quickly on them with how good Jordan Love looked and how good the Lions are. They know that if he runs a bunch, he's just going to get injured. That's just the nature of rushing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I think where you drafted him, you might be stuck starting him, because I'm not sure you drafted him late enough where you picked up. I was doing drafts, and I was drafting Jared Goff and Tua in like the 9th, 10th rounds. You know, drafting Goff in the 8th and Tua in the 10th, and I can pivot. Yeah. You probably drafted Justin Fields in the 5th round.
Yep.
I'm not sure you prioritized the second quarterback enough to bench him, but if you have an option, I would definitely do it. If I could start Purdy over him, Carr, Matthew Stafford, I would make those plays.
Yeah, and a lot of it to me is like, what's your matchup look like? Like, are you supposed to win? Because I'll take the high floor type player of Brock Purdy. No, I'm going to get that 225 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. But if I'm supposed to lose by like 10 points, throw Justin Fields in them, because you might as well take the shot at it. But I'm going to go on the limb, say he's outside the top 10 quarterbacks. I'm sure YouTube and Twitter and everybody will cut that up if I'm wrong and put it on a bunch of different posters. But whatever, who cares? It's more fun to risk it for the biscuit. But we're not going to risk it for the biscuit Thursday night with a particular wide receiver. I, as an Eagles fan, am excited about this. Hit me.
I am benching Jordan Addison this week. Listen, I went to the combine. I went to the draft. I've interviewed Jordan Addison 3 times. I had concerns coming into the season about his ability to pick up the playbook and prioritize things on audibles. Minnesota's playing the Eagles. The Eagles blitz and bring exotic pressures all the time. They're going to have to audible a lot. I rewatched the game, last week's game with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins didn't audible a lot. And when he did, Jordan Addison just didn't seem like he knew exactly what he was doing.
Okay.
He didn't play a ton of snaps. He was 4th on the team in routes run and only played on 56% of the snaps. Like, he was behind KJ Osborne. Yes, when he caught the ball, he looked good, but he doesn't break tackles. He's not this like game-breaking wide receiver. He's not Quentin Johnson who can game break. He's not Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba who can break a game open with 1 catch. He's a possession guy. I worry that he's going to be phased out, and I worry that with this pressure from the Eagles, that Kirk Cousins is going to have to audible at the line, and Jordan Addison might get lost a little bit. That's been my concern, that he might not pick up the playbook as quickly as people expect. I've said all along that I think Jordan Addison is an athletic person who knows he can play football well, but doesn't love football. And I think as he gets frustrated, he starts to disconnect. We saw a little bit at the USC game. Even when he transferred to USC, we saw a little bit of him struggling the first couple games, pick up that playbook. So I'm benching Jordan Addison. Everyone loves the rookie hype, and everyone's like, oh, rookies. Jordan. Just bench him.
I like
Get your safe floor play and be okay this week.
Listen, I like that, because especially they're missing their center. He's out of the game already. They might be losing their left tackle as well, because he's questionable. It's a game for me, in my opinion, which I hate. TJ Hawkinson's going to have a really good game
Yes.
because we're missing Nakobe Dean. Reed Blankenship is also out. We're not great against tight ends anyway.
Um,
The only thing that could maybe help Jordan Addison is that Bradbury's out. But like you said, KJ Osborne was on the field just a little bit more, right? Like it was a few more snaps. I forget what it was, but it was it was good.
It was more snaps. I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, KJ Osborne was definitely on the field more. He was on the field 91% of the snaps.
Yeah.
I mean, 91 to 56%, that's a ton difference.
Big difference. Yeah, not a little difference. I just can't
a big
do
difference.
Math.
Yeah,
Whatever.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know
can't
if the
do
snap
math.
when you get percentages like 2 snaps is like 10% or some weird, it depends on how many snaps you have, but it's still a big difference.
But that's a big thing. Like, not a lot of people know about like the audible section of like Jordan Addison, and he's not might not pick it up as well, and that you interviewed him 3 times. So like you just help the people out a lot there because maybe he's way better in week 14, 15 when he's had more time to, get used to it. But it is week 2 and it is a short week. Again, that's like you got to implement that thing right away. It's like 2 days you basically get to do that. So
here's
really
one more thing with that. If you look at just numbers, you'll go, oh, the Vikings ran 11 personnel all the X amount of times. But if you watch the game, Jordan Addison was not out there for 11. They were throwing CJ Ham out there as the third wide receiver. They were throwing like just all these crazy formations without like they had at one point four people lined up as wide receivers, and Jordan Addison wasn't one of them. It was Jefferson, Osborne, Hawkinson, and CJ Ham. Like if you can't beat up CJ Ham for snaps, that says something.
Yeah, that's a problem. If you can't beat out CJ Ham, we might have to pause and fade you for a week. So I think that's a great play. And I only have one more. We have an honorable mention. We don't have to bring him up. It's Kenny Pickett. He's playing the Browns. That's a given. Nobody really has to.
If you were gonna start Kenny Pickett, your team sunk anyway.
Yeah, your team's terrible. You shouldn't talk about him anymore. But Darren Waller is my sit. I don't care that he's playing the Arizona Cardinals. I don't care that he could be the wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants with a quarterback who has 17 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, and everybody overpraises it for some reason. The guy has a hamstring issue, and they're saying it's a lingering issue, and he's always had this lingering issue nonsense. And I've been fading him all summer because he is always injured, and he's older, and he broke 0 tackles last season. 0. How's that even possible to break 0 if you play in more than one game? It's mind-boggling to me. To me, all that says is that you lost your athleticism, which is what made Waller special, and you are just riding out your golden years with everyone thinking you're going to be amazing. And again, do I really like a game script between the New York Giants and the Arizona Cardinals? Can they throw up a ton of points? I don't see that. The Giants are going to run a lot. The Cardinals are going to run a lot. That time is going to tick, 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 tick away. And Darren Waller is going to get you 3 for 39 if he even plays. And you're going to be like, oh my God, I drafted this guy way too early again. And you're going to be pissed off. And it's tight end. You can match that production pretty damn simple out in the waiver wire. So go take a look. Find a great matchup with a guy who's on a team that's supposed to win. So pick a favorite and a good matchup, and I guarantee you he matches the production. I don't even care what name you pick. Just spin around in a circle with your eyes closed. I guarantee he's going to match Darren Waller's production.
You can go across the field. Zach Ertz is on your waiver wire. Ton of volume. Trey McBride would be just as good. I've been fading Waller all offseason too. I agree. He's old and he gets hurt. The fallacy is that he's the leading receiver for the Giants. He only played 54% of the snaps in a game that they scored 0 points. They were down the whole game. Like from the get-go, they were behind. So you're talking game script where they needed to pass, and he was only out there 54% of the snaps?
Yeah.
He got 5 targets. Great. Caught 3 of them, 36 yards. That's wonderful. 3 targets for 36. You told me 3 for 36. I'm like, okay, that's decent production. But not for someone you're like, he's the leading receiver.
Yes.
I think Isaiah Hodgins had a bad week. Obviously, tough defense against Dallas. Arizona should be easier. I think Slayton, Paris Campbell, Isaiah Hodgins are picking up. I argue I'm fading Darren Waller. Again, you drafted him high, but you can get production at tight ends off the waiver wire. You can pick up a Zach Ertz. You can pick up Kylan Granson for Indianapolis. You can pick up some of these guys who are just okay. You can pick up throw a dart throw at one of the Seattle tight ends. They're all a mess. I mean, you could pick someone up who will be all right. And I agree with you, Darren Waller. This hamstring, which is now like basically the sciatic nerve, is what him and Cooper Kupp have.
Yep.
Which is like, well, duh, if you're old, you know what that is. Like, I'm 40. I know somebody I have to
feel
all
it.
the time.
Yeah,
I can feel it all the time.
Yeah.
This is a lingering issue he's had for multiple years. We've seen Cooper Kupp on IR for 4 games, possibly almost all season. They're talking about now. Darren Waller could easily go on IR tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have to be pivoting if you have Darren Waller, regardless if you're starting him out. You have to find a pivot because it's going to be needed sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and hopefully you were a smart enough drafter to get 2 tight ends with Darren Waller, knowing that this was most likely coming. But we have 2 more players. Both are yours because I kind of ran through mine really quickly. And I like both of these players. You could pick whichever one you'd rather do first, the quarterback, the tight end, whatever makes your little heart happy.
Let's stick with tight end. I'm benching Hayden Hurst this week. I get it. He was the hot buzz coming in, and he was going to be the number 1. Carolina's not good. Bryce Young looked horrible. Like, Bryce Young looked bad. Like, he looked like the worst rookie quarterback out there.
Yeah.
It just wasn't good. The Saints linebackers and safeties are really good in coverage. Like, they're going to match him well. Adam Thielen played last week, but had an injury, was questionable. He's now getting healthier. He'll be better. I think DJ Chark is washed, personally, but he might play. And if he plays, he's going to absorb some of those targets. Yep. He might not catch them and might not do it, but if you take 2 targets away from Hayden Hurst, that drops him down. He was 4th in the team in targets. I just don't love that for my tight end. I want my tight end to be 1 or 2 in targets. I just think it's just not a great matchup. So I'm benching Hayden Hurst. Again, tight end, you can find someone off waivers who's going to match that production. He's just not good enough for me to be like, yep, set it and forget it. I'm definitely benching him if I can find an option.
No, I love that. I mean, last week I used him in DFS, and thankfully he was against the Falcons, which suck against the tight end. He got a touchdown because pretty much everybody was injured. But a stat I found this morning was that Bryce Young had 2.8 seconds between the snap and the throw when dealing with pressure, which was tied for the 4th highest. He had time.
Yeah.
So he had time and still couldn't get anything done. And he's going against a pretty good Saints defense. I'm not touching him either. I fully agree on that. Again, tight end is a wasteland, and you can go out there and you could get somebody like a Gerald Everett. If Hunter Henry, for some reason, is still out there, you can get somebody like that to replace him, and I would rather that. And you know what? Hayden Hurst, like you said, I want the first couple options in the offense. You either have to be 1, 2, or 3 in the offense, and you need to be athletic. I don't see that from Hayden Hurst. So 100% out on him. And I'm always, always, always out on your last player because every time I use him, he bites me every time. So
that's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Listen, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. He is a good NFL quarterback. He's just a bad fantasy quarterback.
Yes.
I know you don't like him because you're jealous because he's probably more handsome than you, and you guys are handsome off. I get it. I understand. It's fine. But you can't start him this week. First of all, he's playing the Bills. The Bills defense is elite. The pressure rate, they brought 33% pressure rate last week against the Jets. Jimmy Garoppolo the first week only saw 6.9%. The difference there is huge. So let's say the Bills bring a little less pressure. Let's say they bring 15% pressure rate. In games in the past 2 years where Jimmy Garoppolo has seen 15% or higher pressure rate, he averages 1.2 touchdowns and 0.8 interceptions and about 250 yards.
Yuck.
Yuck. Jacoby Myers might not play concussion protocol. You're taking away a weapon. So then we have Hunter Renfrow possibly stepping up. Or can you name a third receiver on the Raiders?
No, honestly, whoever they drafted, isn't it like Trey Tucker or something like that? Maybe.
To tell you the truth, I have no clue. Outside of Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Jacoby Myers,
I got nothing.
Yeah, Trey Tucker is the next guy.
Hey, there you go. 1 point.
Okay. Good. Yeah, good job with that because I had no clue, and I went to the draft and I was at the combine. I've got stacks of papers from there. I have no clue. You just can't start him. You could barely start him to begin with. But you definitely can't start him against the Bills.
And that's the problem.
And the Bills are going to be on a warpath this week.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, they're coming after people. That, what was it, 31% you said they
33% pressure rate.
It might be 50% this game.
It could
Like
be.
they're gonna be pissed off. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is on the injury report. We think Jacoby Myers isn't gonna play. Devontae
Yep.
Adams might have been on there too. I thought I saw that today. That it's just not an environment I want to go play with a guy who has one of the lowest ceilings in football as a fantasy football quarterback. I just want nothing to do with it. You missed the boat if you were going to use Jimmy Garoppolo. It ended up being last week. He had a decent game. I still wouldn't have used him then, but you could have. I fully agree. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a fade. And for this show, we'll just say, like, I'll try to get it written real big above us. Like, Jimmy Garoppolo is a fade. And I'll put beneath it, I'm more handsome. That way it's just
there you go. That's all you need.
Yeah. That's all I want, man. That's all I want. But look, we just gave the people 10 players that you should sit, put them on your bench for the week. That way you can win in week 2. But I went out on social media and I decided, Facebook, what a lovely place Facebook could be sometimes. But I went to Facebook, I went to Twitter, I went to my Instagram, and I asked people, like, what's your biggest question mark for week 2? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through like 4 or 5 of them and just rapid fire. You don't have to give like crazy amount of stats or anything unless you want to. But you're just going to help these people figure out fantasy football. Okay. So, first guy, Blake John from Facebook. He wants to know what the heck is going on with Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. What should he do? What would you do? You have any one of those 3. You could talk about all 3. One of them. How are you feeling about the Bengals?
You start them. They're Joe Burrow's, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Yeah. Listen, Joe Burrow's got paid. So that little bit of extra motivation is there. He probably relaxed. He is rusty. Didn't play in the season. Was dealing with an injury. Again, once is a fluke. Twice is a trend. 3 times a pattern. Mm-hmm. Chase averages 8.7 targets per game. Higgins averages 7 targets a game over the course of their career. Those are patterns. They will get back to that. That includes this past week. They had targets. Cleveland is a better defense than we think. They were the 8th best secondary ranked by PFF coming into the season. We forget that. So it was a really tough matchup. They're fine. Start your Bengals. Yeah. It's all good.
I fully agree. It was also a really rainy day, and I'm not giving Joe Burrow the out because his hands are a little bit smaller, but they are. It was a rainy day. He didn't play all preseason. We kind of knew that there was going to be some rust to kick off. It happens. It is what it is, but they're all monsters. Just start them all. So we'll move on to the next question. And Derek Johnson wants to know, is Brandon Ayuk someone I could trust every week? Will he play the same as he played in week 1?
Yes, you trust Brandon Ayuk. Pittsburgh secondary was ranked 18th preseason. The Rams were ranked 32nd. It's not that great of a secondary.
It's a good
7 games with Purdy. He's had 7 games, 7 regular season games with Purdy. Deebo Samuel has only had 4. He's got the chemistry with Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's on a historic pace. I just was reading thing. He can, if he throws 2 touchdowns, he'll be like the first guy to do it in his first 7 starts or something crazy like that. You trust Ayuk until you see a pattern of him not doing it.
No, we're going right back to him, man. Once, twice, 3 times. We talked about it, and I agree. Like, I think he's good. Now, my question to tie on to this question before we move on, who are you trusting more for rest of the season, him or Deebo?
I'm trusting Ayuk.
Same.
I like Deebo a lot, and I like what he can do. And he's got, if you are in a points per rushing attempt league, maybe you bump up Deebo a little bit. I think that team is competent enough where we could see the 2 of them be top 12 wide receivers or close top 15 wide receivers, still have McCaffrey be a top 5 running back, still have George Kittle be a top 5 tight end, and Brock Purdy can be a top 12 quarterback. Like, they are that good of an offense.
Yeah, no, they're a very good offense. And I like Deebo Samuel, but I tell people all the time that Deebo Samuel is better for an NFL playbook and better for an offensive scheme, in my opinion. But I like Ayuk better for figuring out if I want to use him in fantasy football.
And here's what's nice about
he's just easier to figure out.
And here's what's nice about Ayuk. The opposing teams have to game plan for McCaffrey and Deebo because they can do so many different special things. They're not focusing on Ayuk. When the Patriots are known, and Bill Belichick's known for taking away that one thing, when they play the 49ers, they will take away Christian McCaffrey or Deebo Samuel. They're not taking away Ayuk, and that's great for Ayuk because the safety is going to come down and help. He's just going to have room. He's worth trusting.
Yes, I fully agree. I can't say the next guy's name because we'll get kicked off YouTube, but he wants to know what the heck does he do with Amari Cooper? Are you fading him the rest of the year? Are you afraid? Are you happy with him? You have Amari Cooper on your team. How do you feel?
I'm still starting him. Again,
Yeah.
if we go back to the pattern, 3 times we've seen it, he averages 7.7 targets since he's been in Cleveland per game.
Yep.
Like, I like that pattern of history we have with them. Yes, it was a down week. They didn't need to throw the ball a ton because the Bengals could do nothing against them. I'm fine with Amari Cooper. Watson only had 23 attempts. I'm okay with that. I'm a little concerned about the 62% snap share for
Mm,
Amari Cooper, but he's proven enough to me that I'm still going to start him this week. Now, after this week, if he has another down week, then I start questioning. But
yeah.
week 2, I'm not going to over panic. I'm going to start my studs, start the guys I drafted to start. Unless you have a loaded bench, I
Yeah.
think he's in your lineup.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong. I have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure Amari Cooper left the field with a quote unquote injury for a minute. So I feel like that's what brought his snap share down, but I'm going to trust him. Now, here's another guy. Larry Cordova wants to know, can we lean on Zay Flowers? Do
Yes.
you like, I feel like he's the one there. Like, it's not even a question.
I said on a podcast, Coffee Shop Sports, the other day that my bold prediction was Zay Flowers wins Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I like it.
If you meet Zay Flowers, you love Zay Flowers. His energy, his vibe is electric. When I talked about Jordan Addison not seeming like he loved football, Zay Flowers is complete. Zay Flowers loves football. He loves everything. He loves blocking. He loves being out there. He just wants to win. He just wants to help his team win. I was concerned that Zay Flowers was going to be a slot guy. What I like about it is we've seen his split almost 50-50 between slot and out wide. So he's going to be out there on 2 wide receiver sets, which was my concern I thought 2 wide receiver sets, it was going to be Odell and Bateman, but we've seen Zay Flowers out there. He's electric with the ball in his hands. 10 targets. Now, right, once could be a fluke, but if it happens again, then we're talking about a trend that becomes a pattern.
Yep.
You start him now, like trust him. The Ravens are a good offense. They've always been a good offense. Lamar Jackson is a good quarterback. Yes, Mark Andrews might be back and that might siphon some. So maybe he doesn't get 10 targets. Maybe he gets 8. Maybe he gets 7. That's still pretty good. He's going to catch a bunch of them. He had a really good last season in college. I still think Zay Flowers wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think I don't want to say he's the best wide receiver over the course of the career out of this draft, but this year he's the best wide receiver in that draft class, if not the best offensive player.
No, I love that. Before the draft, I said he is a player you need to move around and create plays for him. That's exactly what they did. And to me, he's going to get the ball at the same amount, maybe more, because J.K. Dobbins is out. And this team's going to now have to lean heavier into the pass than they already were going to, because I'm not trusting in Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and Melvin Gordon as a coach. They're there to just fill the gap, basically. So Zay Flowers, the young guy, like you said, he's electric. They were moving him around. He's already earned targets, and Lamar trusts him. I think we're set there. Here's somebody that I just feel like I can never trust. Mikey D _ OMBP wants to know, can we talk about Kyle Pitts, please? What the hell are we doing with Kyle Pitts? Because, like, if you drafted him, I feel like you're stuck starting him. But tight end sucks, and you can find the same production. So what are you doing with Kyle Pitts?
I never drafted Kyle Pitts because I think Kyle Pitts is not that great of a player, to be honest with you. Athletic is all get out, but athleticism doesn't always translate to good on the football field. Again, we came in saying Bijan's going to be great because the Falcons run a ton. Ritter's just okay, but Kyle Pitts is a top 5 tight end. Where does that line up? We've started to see the pattern. We have a trend of Kyle Pitts just being mid.
Yeah.
To meh, to gross.
Yeah.
That could become a pattern of him just being not that great. He's athletic. I get it. Now, he may be an Evan Ingram, where it may have to go to a new location in 2 years and he revitalizes his career. Evan Ingram had a great first year and then was poop for 4 years at the Giants. That could just be Kyle Pitts. The Falcons won the game. They're going to do what it takes to win the games.
Yeah.
There's just not a ton of passing volume there. I'm benching him. Tight end, you can find replacement. I'm trying to trade him if I can. Try to cash in on that name value while you can. Maybe you can get If you could trade Pitts for George Kittle and, an Allen Robinson who might do decent this week, maybe you get a Tutu Atwell, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, honestly, you would have to really catch somebody tilting on it. But if I could get the Dallas Goedert manager and say hey, your guy got a 0, here's my guy. He's not amazing,
Who
but
also
he did
got a
a little
0.
bit better. Yeah, but he looks like he's so athletic, and you got to run the story a little bit. But it maybe, who knows? Like you said, I think I got fooled in Dynasty. I feel like I have to wait for it to build up, produce, all that fun stuff. So right now, if you're starting them, go for it, I guess. But I would rather just play the matchups with a second tight end and hope that works. Yeah. Our last question comes from McBreeze11, one of the best people I know on Twitter. I love that man. He wants to know, do I drop Antonio Gibson? And to me, you're one more week away from this being 100% yes, because the man just fumbles constantly.
He does. Fumbles an issue, right? And obviously that's most of your leagues, that's negative points, which is never great. I'm encouraged that he still got opportunities post-fumble. I rewatched that game today. He was still in there as the third down back. Now, we have to realize what Antonio Gibson is. He is the pass-catching back. He was in there for third downs and the 2-minute drive after that fumble. So he was still on the field. Now, he wasn't getting a ton of looks, and that might have been by design, but at least he's on the field. If you're on the field, at least you have a shot.
Yeah.
It's really team dependent if I'm dropping him. If I have depth now, I preferred Brian Robinson coming in because I thought he was going to be the lead back, which he is. I don't want to say drop him, but again, yeah, we're at a pattern heading towards a trend of him being just okay. Well, he's probably the top handcuff out there, but he's not a handcuff plus. He's not the Tony Pollard where it's, oh my gosh, he's going to have standalone value. You probably keep him because bye weeks are coming. We're week 2, bye weeks start in week 5.
Yeah.
They're coming up pretty quick, and he might be a flex play come bye weeks, especially when you get later in the season, week 13, when there's Buffalo. I think it's Buffalo, Baltimore. It's all these good offenses on. He's going to have value, and he's going to be in your lineup probably 6 weeks this year just because of bye weeks. So I'm not sure I drop him unless I have depth at running back and I can give him. Let's say you started out Saquon Barkley in the late first round, maybe picked up Najee Harris in the 4th, and you picked up Gibson in the 7th, and then you picked up all these guys like Kyron Williams and Josh Kelly, and you're okay. I'm set. Then you drop him. But if he's your running back 4 or higher, you can't drop him. If he's your running back 5 or lower, you can drop him on your team.
So for my personal questions now,
okay,
I'm going to give you a running back. You tell me if you rather Gibson or him. Okay. We'll go full PPR. Just, so we have the setup here. We go Gibson or Justice Hill?
Justice Hill, just because of the volume play. I'm willing to take a risk on Justice Hill being a volume play this week.
No, I like that.
If it's a straight drop, if it doesn't work out, you can always just try to pick Gibson up off the waivers next week and drop Justice Hill.
Okay, so Gibson or Joshua Kelly?
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the one. I think that's going to be the toughest one of the
I'll
three.
take Joshua Kelly because I think Joshua Kelly has standalone value, even if Austin Eckler plays where I don't think Gibson does.
Okay, and then the final one, Antonio Gibson, Kyron Williams.
I'll take Kyron Williams because I think Kyron Williams won that backfield position. I think he's the RB1 on the Rams. I think he looked better than Cam Akers. I think they trust him more. He's turned in that role. So I'll take Kyron Williams just because, again, it's that upside. If he is the one for the Rams, which is a good offense, I like it. Plus, he pass catches just like Antonio Gibson. Yep. He's going to play more snaps than Antonio Gibson does.
No, I fully agree. And Cam Akers took 5 different plays and got tackled for a loss. So he's going to lose Sean McVay once again.
Yep.
But listen, man. We had an amazing show. I want to thank you because I don't normally bring guests on, but I was like, you know what? I got to talk to my boy. I was like, he's always on air. He's always nice to everyone. And I'm always there to reward the people that are nice on Twitter because people on Twitter usually suck. So what I want everyone to do is hear where you're at one more time. That way they can follow you. They can follow your stuff. They can read your articles, do whatever they got to do. But how do they find your stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the DUnit13, so THEDUNIT 13. Just like 50 Cent's G Unit, I'm just the D Unit for Dustin. So it's the D Unit. You can find me on Twitter. That's the best place to find me. I do have an Instagram. I'm trying to get it going, but I just can't do 2 social medias at once. But that's the best place. You can find my articles at dynastyprosfootball.com. I'm the content director there. You can check us out at QB List. I run our sit start team. So our sit starts at QB List. It's every game, every player, not just sit start. We say, hey, we think Brian Robinson is going to be an RB2. And an RB2 for us means 12 to 18 points. So we have ranges for all those guys. So we're just not telling you sit, start, sit, start. We're telling you where it is. So when you say, hey, I've got, because worst thing is you go, I got 3 guys that you say start. Who do I start? Well, this guy's a wide receiver 1. This guy's a wide receiver 2. Start the wide receiver 1s. So we give you that range of something we started last year. That goes up Thursday morning, so you have it for Thursday games. That's the best place. But Twitter's the best place to find me. I share out all my work. I share out all the stuff that I find on Twitter. Just past 5,000 Twitter followers. So thank you to everyone who follows me, making that grind. That was my goal for the season, so I hit that. But yeah, I'll start sharing things, and I try to keep my Twitter. It's like 99% football related stuff. So I try to keep it just football from me.
I love it. All right, everyone. So you know what to do. Go follow Dustin. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video. You know the drill. But we'll be back next week to talk about week 3. But take all our advice for week 2. That way you can win and be happy on Sunday. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.